Yo, what up? Welcome to Articview. I'm Josie, and today we're going to talk about the books I read in December. I only managed to finish 4, but I feel like it's still a nice variety of everything. The first book I finished was Burning Sunlight. It's by Anthea Simmons, and it says Climate Justice Now. And this is what the book is about. It's about a girl fighting for climate justice. She's from Somaliland, and she has to move back to England to her mother's birthplace with her father, and she has just lost her mother to cancer, and it obviously affects her a lot. And in the new school, she gathers a group of other youngsters who think about things like she does, who feel like you have to do something now to save our climate, and how they go on about it. I haven't read anything quite like this. The character was likable, was inspiring, and what I also enjoyed was that there was no romance. There was just friendship. But at the end, I was like, everything worked out too well. I read like 80% of it. I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. This would happen. That school would try to stop them. That the parents would try to stop them. That it wouldn't really get much traction in the beginning when they started their protests, inspired by Greta Thunberg. So yeah, but at the end, everything just like fell into place. And then I read the last blurbs for new books, and I realized this is not young adult. This is like teen, and it finally made sense why Zainab was 12. I haven't read books that are for that age group, but I did enjoy it. It was very fast read. And I do feel like people that age, 12 years, 13 years, 14 years old, they do need to be inspired because if you just think about where the world is going, it's quite depressing, isn't it? Very happy about this. I really want to read more about that topic. Now let's get the real young adult one out of the way, and this is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyimide. And it basically tells you a story about a very elite and private school, and things start to happen to two of the students there. The school is called Niveus Academy, and then Devon and Chiamaka are two people whose life gets turned upside down, and somebody starts to leak their secrets, and it really snowballs into a really great conspiracy. And I really like this. It talks about racism. It talks about, again, how you can feel so helpless when things are happening around you and you can't put a stop to it, when you can't trust teachers or grown-ups, although every time they are like, oh, I can't tell this to my mom, or I can't tell this to a teacher. As a grown-up, I feel like you can tell that, because they will know what to do, or even if they don't know what to do, they can still support you. Maybe I have grown up in a bubble where I can trust grown-ups around me, but for me it always is kind of like, oh. But this is a very interesting book. It has LGBT plus themes in it. It has great characters and just very enjoyable. I have wanted to read this for a long time, and I'm happy I finally did it. Okay, so now the easier books out of the way. Let me show you something that I've been reading for a couple of months now, and I'm finally happy that I have finished it. It's called Metropol, and it's by Ben Wilson. If you remember, last month I told you that one of the books, like Past Mistakes, I was reading it with another book, and they kind of were complementing each other and going at the same rate through history. So this was the other one. And I read this in Estonian, which is, I feel like it was a good choice. There were a couple of weird translations, but this is quite big. So if it has a couple of weird translations, it's fine. What is this about, Josie? Come on. It's about cities. Wilson really... I really love these kinds of books. Like, you take one thing, you take like history of fork, or history of salt, or history of something small, and then you talk about basically everything. So let me read you the cities that he talks about. It's Uruk, Harappa and Babylon, Athens and Alexandria, Rome, Baghdad, Lübeck, Lisbon, Malacca, and Tenochtitlan, London, Manchester and Chicago, New York, Paris, Warsaw, Los Angeles, and Lagos. And it, like you can see, it goes from the beginning of a civilization until nowadays. Lagos, it is said, Lagos has 1999 up until 2020. The period of time that he's describing. And how does he talk about these things? Well, basically, he tells you about the city, how it's made, how it's laid out, what was the intention behind it, and then he tells you how it influenced the people, cultures, people's relationship with each other, with the city, with their work, with travel, with food, etc. Like, for a really easy example, in Baghdad, he talks about how Baghdad at the beginning of Caliphate was known for street food and street vendors. And then he talks about how street food is something that connects people, how you can find it everywhere. He talks about different street foods a bit, and then he ends up in our pandemic and talks about how food trucks got more popular and popular because people didn't have enough money to rent out restaurants anymore, and how it became that food trucks were now very popular, and they still are. And this is what they do with everything. And especially with Los Angeles, I was like, oh, it's going to talk about Hollywood. It didn't. It actually talked about a city. I don't know which word to use in English, but how a city is very, very spread out. So it doesn't have one center, and how that actually is like the idea of being spread out and being a place where you can live in your own house somewhere, how it's actually not good for the community because everybody's very individualistic. It's hard to find places where people can hang out, like it's only going to be a mall or something. There are not that many parks, etc. And yeah, with every city, it was so interesting. And especially with Lagos, like all the traffic jams he talks about, and also the like the shadow economy, which is almost as big as the real economy. Anyway, I really love this one. I definitely want to read it again. I was checking out the prices, and the price for this in Estonia is 30 euros. I got this from library. I owe them so much money because it took me so much time to read through this. I hope that they will give it a discount eventually, because I think the book itself is published in Estonian in 2021. But so, oh, please, I want it in Estonian. I love it. It's so good. If you're interested in history, or even if you're not interested in history, maybe if you're interested in traveling, then I suggest you check it out. Even if you don't read the whole thing, just to see a couple of cities that interest you, then yeah, it's a good one. Can you tell I liked it? And for the last book that I read in 2023, I wanted to read something simple and enjoyable, and that was The Audacity by Catherine Ryan. She's one of my favorite comics. And I already knew that her whole persona is keeping it real, but this book is also keeping it real, but in another way. Like her TV persona is keeping it real one way, and her real persona is keeping it real the other way. I never realized how important her daughter is to her. I was always like, when she made the jokes, I was like, okay. But here you really can see how being a single parent shaped her. Her work ethic is crazy. She is so funny, so enjoyable. She's keeping it real. There were so many interesting things here. I feel like if you ever read a comedian's biography, you're like, wow, their life was crazy. But that's maybe they are comedians, because they have so many things to draw from. And yes, I really love all like the trashy TV and celebrities, and she does too. So yeah, really loved it. I definitely suggest you to read it. And yeah, I can't imagine a person who doesn't like it, but maybe there are people like that, and then I think I don't want to be their friend. So that's it. These are the 4 books I read in December. Not that much variety like with my November reads, but I'm still happy I could finish a lot of them. And I'm very happy with my selection. I feel like 2023 was an okay year for me. I didn't read anything until September, and then I really found my reading love again, and I've been buying so many books, you have no idea. So hopefully I will have more interesting things for you to talk about, to review. So let's see each other in 2024. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I wish you well, and see you another time. Bye!